Welcome to the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. I'm your host, George Roberts. Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today, we have Suzy Sevier and Michael Barnhart, founders of Adventurous Real Estate Investors, which focuses on a different ROI, return on impact, and founders of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor podcast. Welcome, Suzy and Michael.
Yeah, thanks, George. We're really excited to be here and share our story with your listeners.
So, Michael, before we turn to real estate investing, I understand that the two of you have several other businesses that you are currently operating, including eCommerce, an import business, and brewing consultancy. So can you tell us a little bit about those businesses?
Yeah, I mean, just so the e-commerce business it's pretty hands off. It's just another means of cash flow, right? And so that's just great. We set that up, and then it just trickles in every month. The import business is actually moving towards hands off as well, but and we basically buy Defenders here because we're located in Cambridge, United Kingdom. We buy Defenders here in the UK, import them to the United States, and then our business partners on the state sides sell them, and then we rinse and repeat. So
yeah, people really love their right-hand side drive Defenders over in the US. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's a novelty for sure. And so you can buy them dirt cheap here because they're everywhere in the UK because people drive them for farm vehicles and stuff like that. And so but there's quite a few stipulations. It's very difficult to get them imported, but once you learn the rules, then it's very streamlined. So we're moving towards being very hands-off on that. And that's just another income stream. And the brewing consulting business, that was my first business I ever started, and actually ended up selling that a couple last year, actually.
Yeah,
last year. So yeah, I ran that since 2014, and it was more hands-off, very hands-on, very first several years. And then I deployed to Afghanistan, and then at that point, kind of hands-off after that. But basically, I found a niche that was needed in the brewing industry, right? Nobody was actually testing their beer, their wine, or anything like that for contaminants. A lot of these bigger breweries, like Coors and Budweiser and stuff like that, they all have their own lab because they have the income to support a lab inside their own brewery. So I just provided that opportunity for other smaller breweries since it was such a huge thing. It's still a huge thing in America right now. They didn't have the ability to set up an on-site lab. So I was a mobile lab for them. So
that's exciting. And that obviously ties in with another of your huge interests, which is biochemistry. So I understand that you are in the middle of your doctoral studies. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was teaching at the Air Force Academy before we moved over here. And I was teaching there with just a master's degree. I have a master's in virology and molecular biology. And so I was doing that and teaching with a master's degree. And then they want me to continue teaching for some reason.
Stop it. Because he's phenomenal.
They want me to continue teaching. So they are funding my PhD now. And so I'm getting a PhD, and then I'll head back and return as an assistant professor at the Air Force Academy, where actually I'll be my last tour in the military, and then I'll be able to retire. So that is the plan.
Yeah, that is very exciting. So along the way of creating all these separate streams of income, you got into real estate. So maybe you can back us into that. So how did you both get started into this?
That's a really phenomenal ask. So our story is unlike others. So over here during COVID-19 and the first lockdown, we had no idea how long it was going to last. We were just told that to go home and stay home. And so with that, Michael and I just looked at each other and we're like, okay, what are we going to do for the unforeseeable future? And what we did actually was we decided to do a mini book club with each other because we don't have a TV. And one of the books we ended up reading was Multiple Streams of Income. And a couple chapters in, it talks about real estate investing. And so Michael had just looked at me and he's like, let's do this. And I just said, okay. And so from there, yeah, we started educating ourselves with books and podcasts. And then once we found out that all things real estate, or majority things real estate, had gone virtual, we knew that like this truly was an opportunity for us. And so we, just showed up in the space over and over and over and started going to, meetups every night and started attending as many conferences as we could. And last year we probably went to 10 conferences total.
10 conferences. So I was going to say, does that get expensive, or these are all virtual?
They were all virtual, which was cool because like this coming year, right? Or like 2021 or 2022, we now know what conferences we really want to go to. And so that was the reason behind it, actually, was that we were willing to pay it just to experience it, because we didn't want to get into a situation where we flew to the States, because we would probably only be able to go to 1 or 2 in person from over here, and then go and wish we would have picked another one. So that's why we kind of jumped all in and decided, like, let's attend as many as we can. There were some that were the same weekends as others. And so from there, it was really just like a flip of a coin to decide which one we were going to go to.
Yeah. Well, I love it. The great thing about education is that it's so much cheaper to learn from someone else's mistakes. So it's a real investment.
And faster. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. They say a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
I like that.
So, yeah, I love the way how you used this pandemic timeframe. That's just such a commonality. Everybody in my network did one of 2 things during the pandemic. They either watched CNN or they founded businesses and made their horizons much wider.
Yeah.
So, well, let's see. Okay, so then you're going to these conferences, and then all of a sudden you're buying, these rather large multifamily properties. So bridge the gap there. How did you get there?
Yeah, so we actually had like a false start into multifamily. And what I mean by that,
Single family.
Oh, sorry, single family. But so what I mean by that is we actually were going to go the single family route, and we had picked a market and set up a team and everything, just because that's what you hear on a lot of podcasts, like Bigger Pockets and such, like, oh, start with single family and then go into smaller multifamily and then larger multifamily. Well, we had 2 properties under contract in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and then an inland hurricane went through and destroyed a lot of the city. So we could no longer get the financing that we needed because contractors were out rebuilding the city instead of our rental property, which was totally, totally fine, totally understandable. But our 5-year goal had been to transition into multifamily. And so Michael and I just said, like, we can't wait a year, and we don't really need to create a whole new team in a different city for single family. So let's just go straight into multifamily, right? Because one of the very first conferences that we attended, Whitney Sewell was there, and he had said, like, you don't need to start with single family. You can go straight into multifamily. And so for Michael, just like that little bit of permission really is what guided us straight into multifamily. And from there, it was taking everything that we got from the conferences, right? Like building that thought leadership platform, posting on social media so that people knew that you were starting to be in real estate, attending meetups and deciding on a market so that you could get those introductions and start to build your team. It was like a really great balance of all of that. Because even by that time, which was towards the end of last year, we were going into our 3rd lockdown. And so like, it was just another opportunity for us to spend our time working on the business, because we didn't have time, to do anything else, right? We could leave the house once a day to work out. And I guess Michael, since at that time he could go back into the lab, but it was very limited about what he could do in the lab. So we just had a lot of extra time again.
Wow. So yeah, that just brings up so many exciting issues that I'd like to talk about. The first thing is, I'm going to call it out of state investing, but you're literally out of country and you've been successful lining up the deals and running these. So you mentioned the importance of building a team. So then you obviously had to go and build a team out in the States to help you to run that, to be your boots on the ground, so to speak. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah. So as far as building a team goes, there was like 2 main key people in our team that we needed. One was like a boots on the ground, like you mentioned. The other one is we needed a phenomenal property management company, right? And that kind of So when we started, like Suzy mentioned, we started posting a bunch on social media and just putting ourselves out there actually got a lot of response from people. And one of those people that reached out was a classmate of mine from the Air Force Academy. And he was like, hey, I'm full-time real estate now. I'd be interested in getting multifamily as well. And so we had a conversation and chatted, and like, he's actually in a market that we were very interested in. So he's like, yeah, I can go, walk these assets, take pictures and things like that. And he would just be, our eyes and ears on the ground, and then report back to us. We knew that we could handle the capital raising, the acquisitions, as far as like underwriting and everything, broker relations, everything like that. We can get the deal flow going. Suzy was writing the blogs, getting in front of all these investors. We both were, and then we knew we could do most of it. We just need somebody on the ground there. So we found that boots on the ground partner. He became our partner. And then we also were searching for the right property management company, because one thing that we don't do at Adventurous Real Estate Investors is we never submit an LOI on a property without our property management company taking a look at it first, to making sure, because even though we know a lot about the markets and the specific submarkets that we invest in, we don't know as much as a property management company does, right? So especially one who owns like 3,000 plus doors, or not owns, but manages 3,000 plus doors, like they know more than we will ever know. And so when we go to them, we say, okay, here's the business plan that we have. Does this make sense? Right. And and the other thing too, is like, we're not just finding like yes men or yes women. Right. And what I mean by that is like, if a property management company wants your business, they're just gonna say yes, 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 right? But when they actually open up a dialogue with you and say, well, this will work, but this won't work, or we can actually push this here, we can push this there. These expenses don't work in this market. I know this is going to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower here, right? So when you actually get a dialogue with your property management company, that's when you know you found somebody that you actually want to spend time and work with them. And another thing too is like, for Suzy and I, like our huge thing, as you mentioned in the beginning, is like focusing on a different ROI. And that ROI was return on impact. And so we wanted to also make sure that we found a property management company that aligned with those values that we have. And we're not just going in, we're not just raising rents just to raise rents. We're not just, and not adding any other value, but we're actually going in and making the lives of the residents that live at our properties so much better. And our property management company talked about that first as the priority. And we knew that they were the property management company that we wanted to work with at that time.
Yeah, I love that. It's the whole idea of doing good while you're doing well. And I know that also in your social media, you talk about taking daily 1% actions. So can you expound on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like what that is like, as individuals and in our business, like we just say to each other pretty much every day, like, how can we be 1% better every day? Or how can we impact somebody today? So, like for our like residents, for example, like what can we add, or what does somebody need help with? Like our property managers will take the extra 30 minutes or an hour to talk to an individual, to walk them through whether that's like signing up for rent relief or just needing to talk about an issue that they're having. Because as individuals or humans, we all just want to be heard and acknowledged. So like we need to also do that with our residents, because they are very important to us as well. But like individually, for Michael and I, whether that is like reading an extra 10 pages in our book, or working out a little bit longer, or just doing something with ourselves, or staying on like even a call for 10 minutes longer, because the individual that we're talking to is like really engaged in the conversation and wants to learn more, like thinking beyond who we are and finding ways to serve others is like what we try to implement with that 1% better every day.
Yeah, I love it. So all it adds up, like compound interest, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about adventurous real estate investors. So what is the next big step for your enterprise?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the next big step really is just, I would have to say, acquiring bigger deals so that we can impact more people. Like that is what we continuously want to do. So like even for this year, right? Like we want to close on 2 more deals that are larger so that we can be impacting more people. Cause that's really what it's about. Like because in our communities, we want to create like, safe basic housing. And once people are past having to think about that basic need, we hope that they can go into like a thriving mode instead of a surviving mode. And we just want to be there to be part of that journey. So yeah, I mean, just continue to at least close on 2 more properties this year, which would be 4 total for the entire year.
Now that is super amazing. I
Thank
love
you.
it. And then maybe you could tell us about some of the impacts that you've had in your communities. I really love to see somebody new come in with a new attitude, like a new sheriff in town, and it's amazing. You can impact so many things in people's lives, including responsibility. Like I don't know about your complexes, but if you got the dope smokers in there, you say like, okay, now did you need to buy that? If you might want to think about your food and shelter first.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So one of the things that, a couple of things, Suzy really loves getting into the weeds about this stuff too. But whenever we write a business plan, as I mentioned earlier, right? Like before we do the underwriting of property, we come up with a business plan, we share with the property management company, make sure that we align, right? But one other thing that we do is like we take a step back from our underwriting. We say, when we start developing the business plan, like, how does this business plan affect the residents in a positive way, right? It's not all about the return on investment. Again, it's return on impact, right? And we're trying to make sure that we impact the residents in a way that's immeasurable. And so we take a step back, and if it doesn't work out, we kind of find different ways in order to make sure that we are having our residents put first. So one thing that we're doing on one of the properties that we're currently managing is adding washer and dryers to some of the units. And that is just going to give so much time back to the residents, right? Like imagine how much time you spend like doing laundry at home, right? If you own a washer and dryer at home. Now imagine like having to go out to a laundromat or a laundry facility, right? Like you have to take all your laundry there, right? You have to wait for it. You have to wait for it to wash. You have to wait for it to dry. Imagine having kids now, or imagine being a single parent, right? And now having to wrangle all your kids by yourself, doing the laundry. It's going to take several hours, multiple loads of laundry because you have multiple kids. And then you have to go back, right? That's an entire day wasted. Now, if we can add those washer and dryers into those units, it just creates so much time freedom for our residents so they can focus on other things, right? Not worrying about doing laundry. Another thing too, like we're adding, awesome amenities where where we can bring people together. Like, so we're adding like fire pits and like a little gathering place for our residents to kind of meet up, and it's like centrally located in the property. And so we're going to have monthly events like cookouts and other things like that in order to like bring the residents together. Because when the residents come together and like Suzy said, they're thriving as a community instead of just surviving as a community, then you really get an increase in resident retention. And resident retention is the most important thing that you actually want to measure, because that is where you actually gain your most, it really affects the bottom line, right? It affects the NOI is those retention. And I don't know if Suzy wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I was just gonna add like some little things, right? So like we are looking into adding like Rent Plus, and what that is, it's like a software that is connected to the residents paying their rent. And so like for me, for example, I've never actually owned a home. So on my credit score, it's like, oh, put a mortgage loan on your, on your account and your credit will go up. And I'm like, no, I don't need that, like, and so when the residents are paying rent on time, it'll actually help their score in that similar manner. I mean, yes, people can opt in or opt out, but at least it is an option, right, for them to build their credit a different way. And it's just like just thinking about what they want to do, right? So even when we took over the property, we sent out surveys, and the surveys are really what showed like what the residents truly wanted. We aren't going in blind guessing like, oh, well, this will help and we think this will help. Like we gave them all a voice to be able to express what they wanted.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing that I just remember that we're doing. This is really cool. And we finally got it all figured out like last week. But Public Service Oklahoma was offering rebates for like, clean energy initiatives, right? So like LED lights, like saving water and like insulation and stuff like that. So currently this one asset that we're managing is the residents are paying for electricity. So when the residents are actually paying more for utilities, there's more rebates available. And so we had a electric survey come out, or an energy survey came out, and they did an analysis of our property, and they found like, okay, we need LED lights everywhere, right? Of course. And then how much it cost. Well, guess what? To buy all these lights, it's like $13,000, right? But with the rebates, because the residents are paying utilities, like electricity utilities, there are more rebates available than there would be available for apartment owners. Because of that, guess how much we're paying for this entire installation and all the lights and stuff like that?
Okay, tell.
$430. So our
Nice.
ROI on that, and it's saving us, it actually ends up saving us like $5,000 a month on the what we are paying electricity, or not a month, sorry, for an entire year. And at a 6 cap, that's like a substantial amount, like $60,000 plus dollars, right? That we're adding to the property. So our ROI on that $433 is like 788 or something like that, something ridiculous. It's just like, it was a no-brainer. And now what's even better is that now the residents are going to be paying less electric. So now
Yes.
we can, we're actually reducing the burden on our residents, and that's just one way that we're impacting the residents. I was really excited about that. I forgot to tell the story, so I'm glad I remembered.
I love it. Yeah, great way to retain people. And so here's another thing that I believe is new for you. You just recorded, I think, about a half dozen episodes of your podcast, and just launched about a week ago. So tell us about the adventures of a real estate investor.
Absolutely. So when Michael and I were doing our one-on-ones, we found that everybody had their own story, right? Because we would ask, why did you start investing in real estate? And these stories were just full of emotion. And, Michael and I just said like, wow, whether these people see it this way or not, but they're creating huge impacts, like whether it's for their family or for themselves or for the community. And so the podcast is talking about how people are creating an impact while leveraging real estate investing, because like the good that real estate investing can do can then be spread for others. So I mean, the stories are phenomenal, right? We have people who talk about building orphanages in Belize. We have like military members who have talked about how they can retire from the military and no longer have to have themselves or their family move around every 9 months or 2 years or 3 years, or just how some people are going to be able to actually be a part of their children's lives, right? Not just in the morning to get them ready for work or at night to get them ready for bed. And so we just want to be able to showcase these impacts to everyone, right? Because we strongly believe that you are born to make an impact in this world. And so when you see people who look like you doing similar things, it sparks those creative ideas. And that's what we just want to do. We want people to like reflect and believe that this is something that they can also be a part of.
So I love that, and the international impact. I think that obviously you two are big time travelers. So just
Yes.
leaving real estate for a minute, do you want to tell us about some of those great destinations that we see on the adventures of a real estate investor?
Yeah, so Susie and I have a hashtag for our relationship or our business or our partnership basically, and that hashtag is Road to 100 countries. And so like our ultimate goal is obviously to travel to 100 countries, but the big hairy audacious goal would be to climb the highest peak in every single one of those countries that we've been in. And so that is our goal. And we've been to, before the lockdown, we try to squeeze in as many as we can. I think we actually squeezed in Copenhagen right before, like in February. That was like February of Valentine's Day. Actually, we were in Copenhagen, Denmark. And then of course after that, we were actually planning to go to visit a friend in Germany. And then that was the week that the lockdowns happened in England. So that was unfortunate, but things are starting to open up now. They're not open at all right now. We can't fly anywhere, but they're starting to. We're hoping to be able to travel somewhere. And this is June of 2021. So hoping to be able to travel some places at least for my birthday in July, but we'll see. I think that's pretty,
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, the world is like so beautiful and there's so many different cultures and there's so much diversity that like we just want to be able to explore it and be a part of it all, right? Because that's really like when you learn and then you can reflect and then you can grow also as an individual just by seeing everybody else in their world instead of just being like immersed in our world.
Yeah, that is amazing to have that perspective of cultures, something I wish existed a little bit more widely. I've got my own story about the lockdowns. I was on a cruise ship the week before those cruise ships. Yeah, you heard the stories, right? They're out there for like months, can't dock anywhere. So, yeah, I just barely avoided that fate.
Wow, I'm happy you did.
Yeah. And I'm happy that I did go cruising because I don't think that I'll be cruising this year. So maybe next. So I see that you two love to give back. So how about this? In the final phase, let's talk about your career and how you can give back, or some advice that you might have for new entrepreneurs. Like, how about the greatest influence on your entrepreneurial careers?
You can go. That's
Greatest
a good one.
influence.
Yeah.
Like you want like a person or just like
Yeah, like
what?
a person. Could be like a book or maybe somebody closer to your life.
Yeah, so two things, I guess. The book that we read that kind of jump started this whole thing was The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And then the person who has been the pivotal, like the most important person that we've met during this entire journey has been our mentor. His name is Carl Suverkrop, with Trident Multifamily, and he's just an incredible human being. Like he's my mentor, he's my friend, he's a business partner as well, and he's just, yeah. I've never met somebody who wanted to give back so much and never asked for anything in return. And for that, like I'll be eternally grateful and thankful for Carl's mentorship.
Yeah, because he was an organic mentor just through introductions. So, I mean, even just for entrepreneurs who want to get started, like just put yourself out there, and go into meetings with intention, because the right introductions will happen to you. And that's what will change your life.
Yeah. And not just like somebody who is doing it. Like we wanted to find somebody, like once I met Carl, I knew it was somebody who aligned with not just, someone that I aspired to be like in a couple of years, but also somebody who I aligned with, like on our values and everything like that. So that's super important for us. So yeah, he checked like all the boxes. Like this is my guy. Like I have got to know this guy more. So yeah, and he's great. And so like yeah, he's been helping with underwriting. He's been helping with everything else. Like just making sure that I'm not making any mistakes and just really boosting our confidence.
Wow, that is amazing. How about one piece of advice for your younger selves?
Oh, so this is a great one. So we will all have bills that need to be paid. Just find like an entrepreneurial journey that will pay you and pay those bills. Like think of your money that way, because they all have to be paid somehow. Just be more strategic about it.
Cool. And then how about an entrepreneurial quote or a business quote, something that inspires you to keep going?
Yeah.
No, you can do the word.
No?
No, he does. Sorry,
Okay,
we're
okay.
talking about it.
Okay.
We have several, and then we were just trying to figure out which one we're going to use. So I guess Warren Buffett has a quote, right? So somebody's sitting in the shade today because somebody planted a tree a long time ago, right? I love that quote. Another quote I love by Zig Ziglar is, you can get everything you want in life if you give everybody else what they want. Something along those lines. That's kind of embodies our entire return on impact, right? We're always focusing on ROI. We know return on impact, that is. We know that the other ROI will come when we actually focus on impact rather than actually focusing on money.
I love it. I had Dan Lukowitz on my show a couple weeks back, and I wish I could paraphrase exactly how he said it, but the same idea is that you just create value and everything else follows. That's the way he said it. So yeah, love it. Love those quotes. Okay, so how about this? Maybe you just send us out with the story of your most recent acquisition and how it's going, like the business plan and
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, and that was, we're adding washer and dryer. So the business plan is go in, add washer and dryers, and then be able to get a rent premium from that. And yeah, it's going well. It's been, let's see, almost coming up on 3.5 months now. It's going really well. Our property management company is just crushing it. They're doing a great job. There was obviously some some things that needed to be taken care of when we took over, some deferred maintenance and things like that the previous owner didn't do very good job at, and we knew that going in. So we got all those issues taken care of, and now the residents are just, I think they're very open and honest now with our property management company, and the property is just getting better and better every week.
Great. I love it. So I want to thank you for a great and high impact interview, Suzy and Michael. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us on, George. It really was a pleasure.
Absolutely.